Cyclone Asani, a flood threat for the Bay of Bengal. Cyclone Asani is a decent looking storm, although it has potentially weakened a little bit from how it was earlier. It's a Category 1 hurricane equivalent cyclone on the Saffir-Simpson scale and could pose a wind and definitely rain threat to the Bay of Bengal coastlines. Right now, as of 7:30 p.m. in India, 1 p.m. UTC, there it is, with winds of 75 miles per hour sustained and a pressure of 982 millibars. It is currently moving northwest at this point and is expected to continue in that direction for a little while yet until it curves towards the northeast later on. So let's have a look at its current position in more detail there on that map, and its wind field right now, which is displaced a little bit to the east and it's probably going to start to get more well-rounded soon. Currently there at 12.4 north, 87.6 degrees east. That puts it 793 kilometers from Chennai, 746 from Visakhapatnam, 842 from Puri, 1129 from Kolkata and 1301 from Dhaka. Of course, the latter being in Bangladesh, and south of there could see significant rainfall beginning tomorrow. We'll be exploring that in just a moment. So with the storm probably near its peak right now, although some suggestions that it might have a little bit more left to give according to other agencies, let's take a look at the hazards. Mainly we're looking at flooding beginning tomorrow from southeastern Bangladesh southwards along coastal Myanmar and will last several days, and we're looking at rainfall accumulations possible of over 40 inches, that's 1,000 millimeters in that region. Along the coast of India, even if the storm got pretty close, we're not expecting huge amounts of rainfall, but certainly can't rule out 100 millimeters. This is what we expect in terms of its forecast then and its wind field. As we move on into this week, it will start to weaken, especially along the coast of India there, so it only have a small window to impact land. Certainly with its winds, and what's left of it will probably end up getting sucked towards Myanmar or the Ganges River Delta in Bangladesh. So that's something we'll be watching for, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that at the moment as we get on towards this week. There's the JTWC cone on the left hand side, the Indian Meteorological Department a little bit lower than what all the other estimates are saying right now. You can see there's quite a good agreement around the 75 mile per hour mark. IMD going with 60, and you can see the JTWC forecast cone there, an abrupt turn towards the right just before it reaches land. And let's take a look to compare the Indian forecast cone as well. Has something pretty similar actually, and they're calling for a peak of around hurricane strength just about, and they're expecting that to be closer to land, so that's why there may be a possibility of further strengthening tomorrow, even though it's not looking as good on satellite imagery right now. Certainly the GFS model might agree with that too. Certainly a second peak of sorts when it gets closer to the coast, and then it starts to weaken and then completely gets disheveled and knocked away towards Bangladesh, and it's untraceable by the time it gets there. So you could say it's dissipated, but still some of its energy will be producing very prolonged heavy rain showers over the Myanmar area and southern Bangladesh, which could deliver huge amounts of rain. So that's something we need to watch for quite closely in the next few days. Here's a precipitable water look at it as well, almost like the water vapor imagery that we look at on satellite imagery. And you see all the darker colours, that's the moisture conditions really ploughing itself into the landmass in Myanmar and continuing long after the storm is gone as an actual entity. And you can see that going on there for the next 6 or 7 days, and that's where we're really looking at those high rainfall amounts that will accumulate over time, over a good deal of time, as it moves on there. And India looking rather quiet in comparison. That's if the GFS scenario plays out, ECMWF takes it closer to land. And this is the actual rainfall expectations, how it progresses throughout this week. and you can see those colours getting ballooning up bigger and bigger along the coast of Bangladesh and Myanmar. In India, though, remaining fairly quiet actually, but once again that is based on the GFS, and the ECMWF takes it a bit closer to land, but still you're probably only looking there, those red zones in India, at the very worst scenario, that's probably I think 10 inches or something like that. It's still quite a high amount, 150 250 millimeters I believe, if I have that right. I think it is, and you can see there, yeah, very high amounts over Myanmar of around 20 inches or more. This is the sea surface temperatures looking decent ahead of the storm, all the way up until its potential landfall might be. Right now around 29 degrees Celsius, these are all of course, and pushing 30 degrees Celsius even up towards the coast of Bangladesh. Really won't fall below 29, so sea surface temperatures are never going to be a problem for this storm as it progresses. And of course, not to mention the deep heat in India too. So whilst it looks like the storm might avoid a landfall, we could still see tropical storm force winds. This is the ECMWF spread of wind speed probabilities, and above half chances for a few places there around Visakhapatnam and up towards Odisha, and chances start to recede as you get towards Bangladesh, although it is quite clear that the future is uncertain. Looking at the GEFS as well from comparison, it takes it less close to shore, and that's what we're sort of siding with at the moment, and that highlights Myanmar possibly a little bit more as well in that scenario. Let's take a look at some satellite imagery. This is the latest from RAM right now, showing the enhanced infrared, and it must be said that it's not looking so good in those latest frames, certainly relative to how it was looking last night into the early hours of this morning local time. So whether wind shear is doing a number on it or whether it's something else, it may not be a category 1 hurricane equivalent storm for much longer. This is visible imagery from earlier on. It has been looking very good there, although later on again you can see losing it a little bit. Nice gravity waves at the early part of that sequence. And this is RAM slider, and we're trying to get that running. I don't know how useful this is because it's quite glitchy at the best of times, I think most of us know. So there's some geocolor imagery. Let's swap over and see if we can find some, where are we going to? Infrared? There's some infrared imagery once again, and that's a decent loop of the storm moving along there. This is from the Himawari 8 satellite, and let's try and get some water vapor imagery as well. Get an idea of the moisture in the area, and it looks like there's quite a fair deal there on that imagery. Let's try another band. What could we go for next? One of the air mass bands perhaps, just to give you another idea of how that's running. Clearly a moist environment, although maybe a little bit of dryness on the eastern side, but this storm is looking pretty decent as it continues to prowl in the Bay of Bengal, and of course it bears close monitoring, as it could be somewhat of a surprise and could make landfall along the Indian coast still as a tropical storm, but there is, as we say, a lot of uncertainty about this at the moment.